Boom, I'm in the room. G'day, everybody. Welcome. And welcome to Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories. Well, I've got a guest in the wings today. He's a fellow veteran. So we're going to find out all about him. So without too much further ado, let's drag him in. Will, welcome. Now, Will, if you can tell me when and where you were born, and if you can describe to me what it was like where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received. So you've got a squad.
All right, we're getting right into it, huh? So I was born in March 82 in Connecticut in the States. And just this really small town, New England town of Thomaston, Connecticut. So it's this little quintessential New England town that was started, oh man, somewhere back in the 1800s. It was named Plymouth Hollow, and then kind of the American way took over there in manufacturing, and a guy by the name of Seth Thomas came to town, and he was sort of like the Henry Ford of clocks, and sped up the manufacturing process and kind of established the town. And I can't remember the date exactly, but they renamed the town after Seth Thomas, so it became Thomaston. Just one of those nice little New England towns. Little small, 8,000 people, so small little place. The the schools there. So we didn't actually go to school in town. We went to a private school that was about 20 minutes away in one of the larger towns. So I mean, that was a religious based school. So we went there through the early years while my dad was establishing his business. So he actually worked in manufacturing, springs and stampings, tool and die. They had a tool and die area, and they would either send out some of the tools that they would create in the manufacturing process, or they'd be running their own things for various projects, anywhere from a huge client from GM to somebody who just needed some little springs. And it's actually crazy to see how little manufacturing is in in the US these days, and how many plants and everything have sort of disappeared throughout the years. With that being my background, but just grew up around that. Spent a lot of weekends at the business and everything. I knew what he did. We'd show up and occasionally work there too. I think part of it was free labor for my father.
Wow, New England. Now, New England, I guess, is famous for New England in the fall.
Oh, it is, and that's my favorite season.
Yeah,
Favorite
colours of the
season.
trees and all the rest of it. Yeah, we got a bit of that round here, and particularly when you've been away to somewhere hot and dusty, and you come back and it's so much more vibrant, the colour when
Oh
you
yeah,
get back, and I'm sure you'll
yeah.
appreciate that. Anyway, we'll get into that in a bit, but let's have a look at what was the little town like. Was it like you see on the films? A
I
typical
mean,
little town with little cottages and the sort of wide open streets, white picket fence, and all the rest of it. Was it?
it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. You have Litchfield County, so I mean, you have the weather is conducive to it. It really is like a Norman Rockwell painting. A lot of those little towns out there, and it's nice to see when it's upkept. That's actually um, during the fall. They have a lot of the fall fairs and festivals and stuff. And there's really nothing like a New England uh, fair. Just those
Mm.
small things, or you just go for a drive. That's one of the biggest things is driving out there. I grew up all those little small twisty back roads, and everything. So that sort of probably led to my love for cars and moving on to where later on I actually did some stuff. You have Lime Rock Park up there too. So that's
All
you
right.
drive. Oh yeah, about 45 minutes and you get all the fun, the Ferrari days. And uh, I don't think I actually shook his hand, but I met him, Paul Newman,
All right.
um, up up there, and just a few of the other people and everything that would come through the area.
So it's a cracking area then. So your school, you said you went off to a private school. Yes.
Yes,
Rather,
yeah, it
rather,
wasn't like
rather.
you're thinking of.
Yes, I don't think it's quite the same as we have private schools over here.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a boarding school or anything, and it wasn't anything. It was, I think it was literally just one of those Christian charter schools. Um, they provided a decent base of education, but honestly, when I switched over to public school for high school, I had some catching up to do. That's for sure. That is for sure.
So what was your elementary school like then? So I guess that was your elementary days.
It was one of the things, and that actually, this probably equates to the book and the love for reading. Is I had a little old first grade teacher by the name of Mrs. Thompson, and she had um, this reading program, and there was a reading and comprehension program, and I swear this thing was back from like probably the 1920s or 40s, and it would take a manuscript, so you'd be handed these pages, and there'd be a cover page, and you place them in the reader, and they would read through, but you wouldn't be able to see anything except for a small window. So you'd turn it up words per minute and you could only see a certain amount, and then you'd be tested at the end. Okay, what do they know? And I would literally get to the point of you could put these things in and they would just, roll through. So by the time third grade, I mean, these pages were just rolling right through.
Speed
Um,
reader, eh?
Speed reader. And I kept with my wife, even like to this day, where we'll be sitting there reading and I'm flipping and then flipping and then flipping. I get through like 3 pages and she's like, how are you, like, this is ridiculous. It's all thanks to Mrs. Thompson.
Hmm. I mean, I've got dyslexia, which makes reading a little bit difficult. It just takes me
A
twice as
bit.
long to read anything, but I still manage to scrape through and get by. But I can't read. I
I
can't
always
speed
love
read.
hearing those. I love hearing those stories though, where somebody overcame that, it's, because so many people don't, there's people out there where
Yeah,
they, they still struggle with it, or they never pass that hurdle.
yeah. Well, so I have to sort of kind of get over it because I do a live quiz. We do a live quiz online, and I have to read out the questions. And it's used to be my worst nightmare, and I still get some of the words wrong. But uh, I've got the Duchess sat next to me, and she give me a hard time and put me right. I'm sure she writes them so it makes it difficult for me to read.
Yeah, yeah. She's putting a challenge out there for you.
Oh, absolutely. Every day's a challenge. So, moving on slightly then, you went from a public school to a what's name school? A state school,
Oh, you
I
mean the
guess.
the, the private school to,
Yeah,
yeah,
private
public
school to
school.
the state school. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the transition like? I mean, you said you took a bit of time to catch up. So, how?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. I mean, you have to where your friend base, so I mean it was just moving in there was a lot of just people were different. It was awkward. I'm already a little awkward myself, so um it made for an interesting, I want to say, is, I mean, really, I don't think I've kept in touch with anybody that I went to school with from the public high school and things, like one
Hmm,
person. And I think that's it.
yeah. So, what about the educational standard? Was that different? You said you had a bit of catching up to do. Were you a bit
Yeah,
behind?
I would say the math end. They were strong on other subjects, History they were actually huge on, but it was math that the private school was really lacking on. So that actually transferred on to college as well, trying to, and this was prior service, so, or post service. Um,
Mm.
so then you have calculus thrown at you and everything. And I was so lost, like, so it just compounded times a million. And I was, so you have, I'm already trying to catch back up to the relearning stuff. But I mean, I managed to knock it out. I did undergrad business school in 2.5 years. So not
Wow,
bad.
that's pretty
But
good
yeah, no,
going.
that it wasn't bad. Yeah. But yeah, coming from the private school was definitely, to moving between those two standards was, it was rough.
Yeah. And did you get much help, or you just expected to get your finger out and get on with
Expected to get on with it.
it?
Yeah.
So, what was the worst subject? What one did you just didn't want to go to school for? You didn't want to get out of bed for if you knew you got it on that day. What was that
That was,
subject?
I mean, I actually always liked going to school though. That was the thing. I think it was because it was getting out of the house. I mean, what does every young boy want to do? They want to go. I know that was one of my things I wanted to at 18. I wanted to join the Marines, and we weren't at war yet. This was
Hmm.
so I graduated high school in 2000, and I had taken the ASVAB and gone with the Marine recruiter, and he had talked to my parents, and they were like, "Oh boy, he's really going to do it." Um, I had a cousin that had joined the
Hmm.
Marines, and I think he missed.
So, can we just go back a little bit before we get
Yeah,
onto that?
you're really
So,
trying to peel those layers apart.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know your sort. You just want to rush on with things, get to the good juicy parts.
Well, I haven't hit the those parts. They're in the next book. No.
So, so what subject then you couldn't wait to get up for? You sort of dying to get up in the morning and tear to school to do. What was your best subject you enjoyed the most?
Be history.
Ah, what part of history? Because I mean, America doesn't have too much history. I mean, if you want
Yeah.
history, you've got to
Um.
come to Europe and in England particularly, because we've got thousands of years of it.
Right. Yeah, I know, and that's, well, man, that is one thing us Yanks, like, we're we're behind the power curve on that end of things, right? We're still learning.
Yeah.
I think it's half the time we have our head up the posterior. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, well,
What's your
really
favourite period in history?
Vietnam War side of things, really, I gravitated a lot towards that. But I mean, I think I always find those wartime periods of history because they're just so. I mean, World War II, I did a lot of reading of that. A lot more of the focus was Vietnam, um,
Hmm.
which, strangely enough, helped out later, just in mindset and thinking and things. But I think that those periods of war kind of hold life to those two extremes. Some of the
Yeah.
best of times and the worst of times, kind of thing. Um, and those times throughout history really shined, and that's really what I ate up.
Hmm. Terrific. So Vietnam, I mean, that was a rough old war for you Yanks. Lost
For
lost an
anybody.
awful lot of people, and particularly when they came back, it didn't they didn't get a particularly good time of it, and I think that's
Yeah.
wrong. But effectively, whenever an army comes back from a war, I mean, take the Second World War, take the last one we've been involved with, Afghanistan. People forget it,
Yeah.
but we've got
Yes.
so many injured soldiers nowadays,
Yeah.
or retired veterans, and an awful lot of the injuries you can't see, and I think
Yes.
that is just bubbling there under the surface, and it's gonna rear up soon, and it's gonna come and bite us quite hard, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
moving on to your graduation, did you have a prom?
So due to some of the beliefs that my parents had and whatnot, hence that Christian school stuff and all that. I
Yeah.
was banned from prom.
Oh no.
and
Oh,
I
you've
know,
been
and most of the
robbed.
school functions, and exactly. That's kind of why I think that's sort of where a lot of my, well, let's put it this way. My nickname later on was Wild Bill. I mean, it was kind of a childhood one as well. I think my
Mm.
friend of the family had actually said, he nicknamed me Wild Bill at one point. Oh, wow, that's a wild child. Yeah, Wild Bill. And it stuck. And then it showed up in the military career. And I actually have a name tape. This is Wild Bill at one point, but which was a
Aha.
joke.
So let's move on to that bit then. So you managed to graduate school. Did you go to high school, or did you just sort of gravitate to the military?
So I was gravitating towards the military. Like I had said, the Marines. I wanted to do the Marines. And um, I think I had kind of seen the discipline that was instilled in my cousin, Jeremy. And I felt like that was the path, but I was talked out of it. It was, I sort of brought the stuff forward, and my parents looked at everything and they looked at me and they said, look, it's no surprise. We don't really want you to join the Marines, but we want to support you at the same time. So we think the way for you is college. So we'll pay for your college. And once you get your degree and whatnot, if you want to go in as an officer, that go for it. We'll be behind you 100%. Tricky. They were just putting me. Yeah, they knew what was going to
Yeah.
happen, and sure enough, you meet a girl in college and started going down that path, and yeah, the Wild Bill in college kind of took on though, and I think it was year 3 when my parents were like, "Look, I don't think we're down to pay for this anymore." So pulled all funding right before the semester started, and that's how I kind of ended up with BMW and the racing circuit and doing the Wild Bill things.
Hmm. So did you actually manage to graduate college?
I didn't the first time around. No, I was going to UConn, University of Connecticut, um, and that it was a wash. A few years in, and then out you go with nothing really to show for it.
So so without a degree, then what did you do?
So there was a BMW shop. I had a BMW at the time. I was it was basically one of the high, I know it's a big thing now, but one of the higher end detailers. I worked at it in automotive detailing. So I worked at it in high school, and it was sort of my summer thing in college. And at one point, one of the people that I would had done some cars and stuff for, he tossed me the keys to a garage he had. I had no idea this guy's background. I just know we always treated him well, and the boss said, hey, make sure that guy always gets, and I guess he must have talked to the owner or something, because he kind of pulled me aside one day and he's like, hey, look, I've got a garage and I know you're starting school and you're leaving here. You're welcome to come by anytime. Something is always dirty in there. So whenever you need some cash, just come by and clean. I really like the job you do. And I mean, this is an incredible opportunity. Like I mean, he had some Ferraris and Porsches in there, and a limited edition, like a one of 50 Mustang, and there was a Shelby. Just a crazy. There's a hangar
Hmm.
where he just kept his cars. This is a nice opportunity. Yeah. And
Did you get to
I had
drive any of
started.
them?
Oh yeah, no, I got to drive a few Ferraris, and at a pretty young age, so I got that heartbeat moment and that sort of bond of the cars, to where you have a young boy in a fast car like that. It's just something
Hmm.
special about
Yeah, it could be a recipe for disaster as well.
it, especially for Wild Bill, right?
Yeah.
So through him, I sort of met the BMW people, because they worked on some of his stuff, and So I ended up at some point, and it was through another detailing service to where I was a manager over there, and something happened, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to pay you. I got to lay you off for a little bit. And I'm like, okay. And I talked to those guys, and it was just like everything clicked, because they're like, that's crazy. We just let someone go last week, and we're looking for somebody. Like, what do you know about cars? So I'm like, look, I'm a shady tree mechanic, but I know what my way around some European cars. I had a little Volkswagen GTI that I had built up from nothing, and uh, they took me on and took me under the wing, and a older gentleman by the name of Jim Bennett kind of taught me really everything I know about on the car end. But one of the things with them was they had some race teams that would race on in Lime Rock. So they ran two of their cars were shop cars, and then they would also do track support for a few other people. And it just grew, and it grew into something to where we were the first American team to put an E46 chassis um, on the circuit for ITS within North America, and they did really well. I mean, BMW flew them out to Germany and stuff, and right around that point is when the girl I had met in college, a college sweetheart, decided that enough was enough, and she left. So here I am, spinning my wheels with some fast car crowd, not really sure what to do with my life. And I knew that I need to hit a reset button. So I kind of fell back on the military thing. I walked into the recruiter's office and I said, look, I've got some stuff going on, but in about 6 months, I think I can go over there and I'd like to do a special forces contract. And the guy just looked at me like, who are you? Like, what? I was, 25 at the time? Came back, did all the PT stuff, just clobbered it. Okay. Went and retook the ASVAB. I think I got 2 questions wrong on it. And he's like, you could do any job in the military. And he gave me this huge list. I was like, I told you, I want a special forces contract. And he just kind of shook his head. I didn't know at the time what he was trying to tell me, but it's a very good recruiting tool for the infantry. So sure. I mean, I closed up shop. At that point I had my own, and I was racing Subarus in rally in a kind of privateer amateur team doing PGT, had done some of the race schools and whatnot. And I'm going to take this forward and I'll take it to the teams. And then went into the military, and from there it kind of picks up where the book starts.
Uh-huh. So, right, military. So, did you join the Marine Corps?
No, I actually, the second go around, I had seen my cousin had sort of given me some warnings, and he's like, look, the Marines aren't going to let you choose your job. And you're in the thick of it now. This is wartime. And he even told me, he's like, I'm not sure I would have ever, I guess he missed the Persian Gulf by, like, it was something like 24 hours. Their ship rotated out and another ship went in. And then it was like 48 hours later, we were sending the planes over to start the bombing and stuff for Iraq for the first time around.
Is that the first Gulf War?
That was the first Gulf War. That was, but I mean, that was when I was a kid. But I remember they had trading cards, and we had, I think a Halloween one year I had the chocolate chip uniform on and everything. It was, I guess they kind of groomed some of us.
So what did you end up joining then?
So I went into the Army, and it was just it was kind of funny because of joining with that Special Forces contract in hand. I knew certain things had to be done, and they were like, well, you got to do airborne. And, is there any problem doing that? And I'm like, no. And he said, well, do you have any fears or anything? And yeah, I'm afraid of heights, but we'll get over it. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, you've got to be. And I know hey, look, it's a means to an end. So I got to do what I got to do. And I'll go jump out of the perfectly good airplane, there's how many guys do it. I'll be all right.
Yeah. So where did you do
Um,
your training then? Where was your initial boot camp?
so we started off at Benning and Sand Hill. And man, did we have for the first week we had this 75th Ranger Regiment guy there, and that was Drill Sergeant Ogle. And man, he was there was three of them, Drill Sergeant Ogle, Bendelow, and Zadowski. But Ogle was the guy. Like everybody knew, he knew what he was doing. He had been to combat. Um, you have the talk of the privates and stuff in the back, like, hey, that guy. It was like that regiment tab said something. But he was also, I mean, he always just drilled it home hard. And I kind of put some of that. It was always like, why is he so hard on us? What is going on? But he knew. It was
Old
like he knew
school.
what was coming.
Yeah.
Old school. Yeah. He had a bunch
Train
of shrapnel
hard,
in his leg.
fight easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Only the
Exactly.
fighting's never easy.
Well, yeah, no kidding. Well, one of the things, and there was actually, it was said to us before he was one of the ones that said it. And I don't remember if this part was said during this particular um, learning event, if you will, but there was something in the bay to where we were lining up for shower, and shower time in basic training for the, at least the old school way was they'd have one recruit, usually the one that was the most scared, and they'd scream at him. And it was this one guy, I think his name was Hyde. And there was something a little off with this kid, but they kind of took advantage of it. Hyde, turn on the showers. And this scared just would run in there and just turn on every single knob. And some of them would be hot and some of them would be freezing cold, and that the next thing is toe the line. So we're all trying to
Yeah.
get down and get ready. And of course you have toe the line, and someone of course was too late or just wasn't meeting the standard. So we get the half right face, and we're all sitting there in towels, and we have all of our shower stuff in one hand and grab the towel with the other. And we kind of look at each other like, is he for real right now? So we half right face, and he says the side straddle hop. And for those that don't know, the side straddle hop is jumping jacks. So we all kind of look at each other, and I knew it. So I was an older guy, and I just dropped everything right there. I put my stuff on the ground, dropped my towel, and just started doing naked jumping jacks. And it took a good 5 minutes. I mean, kids are trying to hold on to their stuff and everything else. And he's going through, we did flutter kicks and push-ups and burpees until everybody finally has nothing on. But really it was, I know, right? The humor in it, and then it turned like he is so dead serious the whole time, just belting out. There's a vein on his forehead, and I'm just like, where is this going? And finally it gets to it, and he starts getting into the fact of, he's like, why are you so ashamed of your body? It's just a body to get you into the fight. This means nothing. And we started to click like, oh, okay, he's right. Like, this is just a body. And, you have to start thinking of it that way in combat. You don't
Yeah.
get emotionally involved here. Keep your buddy alive, get those tourniquets and stuff on him and all that. And that was one of the things, that was screamed out. You don't think you're going to have to face your friend bleeding out on the battlefield and like check in his crotch area to see if his, quite frankly, if his nuts are still there. And crazy enough, that is one of the first things that's usually asked by anybody who's hit an IED. They want to know if the bait and tackle is still intact. I guess it's one of the male, a proof of our existence or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but, and to be able to put that though into such terms and stuff in basic training was an eye opener. And it was it's something that stuck with me. And this guy was always able to make these lessons stick, whether it was the extremeness that he always presented something. Because he didn't stick around. I think he was only there a few weeks. Um, and there was word that it was just, oh, he's too much. Oh, it's just he's got PTSD issues and stuff. But really, it was, and I didn't recognize it until later on. But really, he was just trying to keep guys alive.
So, obviously, you managed to finish your training or your basic
Basic
training.
training. Yeah.
Where did you end up going next?
So from there, it was airborne school. So 3 weeks of falling.
Rolling around on the ground, jump down, roll around. Yeah, I know it.
Lots of it. Yeah.
And
The thing is, we almost had a,
did you ever do the balloon jump? Or they don't do that?
oh, they don't
You
do
don't
that.
do
So
balloon jump.
they start off, I want to say week one is the jump platform. So
Yeah.
they just have this smaller, I think it's up to 4 or 5 feet. And you're just kind of learning that feet and knees together. And then it's the tower, or well, they do the harness trainer. And then you're jumping out of the 30-foot or 50-foot tower, which was always
Yeah.
weird for me. I found the planes easier to jump out of than the tower.
Yeah.
And then there was the one I really hated, and that was the 300-foot at Benning. They have these sky cranes, and I don't think they use them anymore. And that, I think, is probably closest to what you're talking about with a balloon jump.
Yeah.
And this harness
Take
thing
you up
comes down and they clip
and
you
drop you.
in, and then and then just drop you down the. Well, what happens is it's the wind will gust up, and guys will get blown back into the tower, and you have this poor guy sitting 100 feet up, hanging from a parachute, and they shut down the training, and this guy's hanging up there for hours. So really, it was a bit of a pointless.
Yeah.
It's a good experience. I actually got to do the tower, but
Yeah. Cures your fear of heights. Just dangling
no.
there.
No, I'm still terrified of heights. It doesn't even matter.
So did you get your qualification? Your jump quals?
Of course. Yeah. That was the last week they do they have your 5 jumps, so you have to jump out 5 times. Like, they'll do a bunch of Hollywoods, there'll be a combat jump involved. Most guys try to get away with stuffing a pillow in there. And if you have a drill that's decent, they'll come through and they'll check all the packs. And then that person will be pulled aside and they'll be doing remedial training for the day. But you have to do 5 out the plane. And then from there you get we had a blood wing ceremony. So everybody has their own. The Germans have this, if you've ever seen a German jump ceremony, it's always interesting. So when they do those counterparts, but the American one is they'll pin your wings on and they put them there, and the guy will come by. And I don't think they do this anymore because they got in trouble because it was considered hazing. But they come by and they punch your wings into your chest. So that's why they call them blood wings, because they take the backers off them.
Oh, right, yeah.
So they stick there in your chest, a nice little, and if you wince, they'll come back and do it again.
Yeah. So what did you do after jump school? Where did they send you then?
So after jump school, we got on some buses for Fort Bragg because we had to go start the SF training. So you needed to go through a preparatory course called SOPSI, Special Operations Preparatory and Conditioning. And that one, we showed up to these just dilapidated barracks on Bragg. The ones you hear about with the mold and I mean, these things, Korean War era, the paint is flaking off. There's just those mass bathrooms. It was disgusting. But we didn't care, it was better than being screamed at all the time. And then we realized it was the same environment. They just didn't scream at us. They just said it in a quiet voice. And you kind of realize that that almost sometimes is even more terrifying.
It comes down to all that self-discipline bit,
Exactly.
self-motivation. They don't motivate
Well,
you. They
because
don't need to.
eh,
If you don't want to
well,
be
because now
there,
it's all on you.
there's platform four. Yeah.
Yep. And so from there, we went out to Camp McCall, and they started the prep course, which was um, hell on earth all over again. What they do the burpee mile, so all of your gear gets put into these bags, and I think so. What you have to, I think we were there for a week or two before we left for Camp McCall. So you have to deal with the details and the navigating the stuff over there first, and then you get assigned a date, and then they throw you out there. And as you're unloading these bags, though, um, you're just throwing them off the truck, and they're screaming, and you have 100+ guys and 100+ bags. Find your stuff. You have 3 minutes. It's just impossible time hack after impossible time hack, and you realize like we're all going to the same place.
Yeah.
Just grab
Well,
a bag and a ruck. Like it doesn't matter if it's yours or not. Like who cares? Just
it's
grab
all got the
something,
same
because
stuff in it.
the beatings will continue until you follow the instruction or appear to.
It's knowing how
So
to
yeah,
play the
that was
game.
no, yep, exactly. In process there was interesting. And but I those 3 weeks of prep are, I don't understand why, like even the people that got dropped during that portion, fantastic experience. I made it through the whole thing. I did get hurt during the land nav portion, but I still finished, and still finished with my goes. Um, but one of the characters, or one of the cadre that stood out to me, they had a Sergeant First Class Holst out there, and he was one of the Black Hawk Down guys. So the people you meet out at Camp McCall are just first rate.
Yeah.
Um, and that those lessons these guys teach, and they stick with you. And it always seems to be these ones the most intense. And Holst was definitely, I mean, the cadre over there are next level, but Holst was intense by far. He would come by and he had this thing to where if you were falling asleep, he hated people who fell asleep, and they would do the 2-3 events a day. So you would show up and you'd do a morning few hours of hell, and then you'd have classes during the day, and then you'd have your afternoon hell portion, and then more classes at night. And he would come up, and he had a knack for seeing people that were falling asleep, and he'd just come up and just lightly tap you on the shoulder, and you'd of course wake up with a start. And he would just look at you and go, 50 burpees, go. You just knew, it was like,
Somebody keep you awake.
but yeah, we never knew until the very end. They don't share anything until the very end. But he was one of the ones that actually ran the mile. And the movie, of course, a bunch of people, if you're a military war, like a history buff in military history,
Yeah.
of course, everyone's read the book,
Yeah.
seen the movie.
Mogadishu. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I've seen the.
there's a
Black Hawk
fantastic
Down.
one recently on the Tom Ryan or Sean Ryan show, Tom Satterley, and just some of the things they talk about and how the conflict actually, like what actually happened. I mean, Holst the same way, the same look in his eyes, and what they showed in the movie, but then hearing it from someone who was actually there, the lessons learned are just humbling. Humbling to say the least. But
So you got through all of that then. Where was your first draft? Where did they post you to first?
Oh no, that's so the next hurdle. We have one more hurdle.
Continuation.
So we had
training,
SFAS. Yes. So now you have the actual selection.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready for selection, and everybody's getting ready, and I'm sort of nursing this injury, and I'm like, I don't know, because we're still doing the morning morning runs and the rucks and everything else, and everyone's getting ready to go. And I'm like, and Doc's like, you need to sit this one out. Do the next one. Let this heal up. I had my left leg had an injury. I had torn something. I don't think anybody really even knew. I was told later on it was a tendon that I had pulled, but I got a weird lump in my leg. At this point, there's like the curve in my calf doesn't come out straight quite right. But from there, it was, they dropped everybody in med hold just out of the blue. They were like, hey, there's a few hundred people in med hold. They were breaking so many people off at this point with the antics they were doing, either out at SOPC or selection. I mean, they were beating the snot out of people to where some of them were getting chaptered from the Army. So it was just, brand new privates coming in. It was just whether heat stroke categories or one injury or another that would take them out of the fight. And I got recocked, and they were like, you know what? We're just going to send you to worldwide with everybody else. And I kind of look at, what? No, I want to appeal this. And they didn't let me appeal it. And that's how I ended up in the 82nd Airborne, first go around. And got orders for 4th Brigade combat team, which was 2508. 2508 was up in there. And I trickled down to Bravo Company, 1st Platoon, 2508, and 82nd Airborne. And we got there. I remember because it was the night of, they had a military ball that night. And with how it goes with signing into a new unit, especially with the 82nd Airborne, I don't know why they do this. They know we're coming. And they send us there, and then you sit around this brigade staff duty office until they decide the battalion comes and gets you. And then you sit around a battalion staff duty desk. And then the companies come and get you. And about now it's 5:00 and you've sat around since 10 that morning. And then the company comes and gets you. And our company was like, well, First Sergeant's busy with some stuff right now. We didn't get seen until it was 9:00, 10:00 that night. And
they call it hurry up and wait.
I know, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? And he shows up, and he's in his full Class A's with everything, and a big stack of medals on his chest, and I'm like, oh my God. And this is from at this point, you're kind of realizing you don't want to talk back to this guy. You just sit there, shut up. He wants to know everybody, but does he really? Everybody else just wants to go home for the day. And that was my introduction to the 82nd. So it kind of went to where the SF guys were a little bit like fast track, move along, to all right, you're part of big conventional Army now, and we're really going to let you know it. You're insignificant.
So 82nd Airborne.
82nd
Screaming
Airborne.
Eagles.
No, not the That's the 101st. So you're trying to get me in trouble here.
What's the 82nd? The AA, is it?
Yes, AA.
AA, yeah.
All the way. And if you get,
so is that the Band of Brothers ones?
So Band of Brothers is 101st. So we didn't have that claim, but I mean they were there. Market Garden. Actually, 508 even jumped into Normandy.
So I'm off over there next week. No, this week. Tomorrow. I'm going to France.
Oh wow!
But nice. I'm going to do something slightly different tomorrow. I'm going down through France, looking at some of the Special Operations Executive Resistance escape lines.
Okay.
Going to Oridor.
Oh wow.
Going to Tui, looking where some of the massacres were taking place and that sort of thing. Do a little documentary series. And then when I get into Spain, I'm looking at some of the Peninsular War stuff. So, little documentary series I'm off to do.
Okay.
Just for fun.
No, that's exciting stuff. Yeah. Oh, very cool.
So,
that's Yeah.
But that's not that's me. But let's a little bit more on you then. So arrived at the 82nd, and what did you do? Where was your first draft off to? Where's your first deployment?
Well, so we were actually we were slated for Iraq, um, and somewhere along the line, there was this was kind of where the Afghanistan surge came in, and there was executive orders cut from President Obama that rerouted us. You know, they were just like, "Hey, we need a brigade combat team. Who's up next? Okay, they're in rotation." And I don't really think we had even a job in Iraq. I think we were just relieving the next people there,
Mm.
kind of deal. And they're like, well, presidential orders. Let's reroute these guys from the 82nd to Afghanistan. We're going to do the surge over there. So this will be a good use for some meat eating paratroopers ready to kick some butt for whatever holds next.
Mm. Interesting. So how did it go?
Oh, yeah. So I was actually happy that we got moved to Afghanistan because my thinking was a little bit more standoff, where Iraq was a lot of urban door to door fighting at the time. And I kind of was more aware of the EFP threats and stuff and how they were developing and everything. And I was like, well, yeah, there's not too much going on. You know, there's landmines, but it's not as developed in Afghanistan.
Mm.
So I think this is going to be the better way to go. Little did I
Yeah.
know.
So what year was this then?
So we got there. I got there in December of '08, and they were still doing train up because we went through. I think the very next day we actually started intensive training cycle. So I think it was the first 2 days we were getting our kit and everything ready to join the guys, and we joined them out in the field. Um, and that was a few months, and they put us through the ring around there. That was the battalion commander Frank Genio, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Genio, and we had Command Sergeant Major Burt Puckett, and Puckett was actually a Ranger Regiment guy who had jumped into Panama into combat during that. So he was one of the mustard stain guys. And
Ah.
oh yeah, we were lucky to have him, but he made sure the NCOs just they drove it home hard. We were yeah, he wanted us to be the tip of the spear, and Bravo Company was kind of his he had a little bit of fond feelings towards Bravo Company, and I think it was because of our first sergeant was very he was old guard, but he was very everything must be dress right dress. Everything has to be
Mm.
just so priorities of work, and he was so that was First Sergeant Donald McAllister, and discipline. They just screamed discipline.
Mm.
Um, but it was a really good unit to be in, and especially for what kind of what everything turned into. So from there, JRTC, and at this point, so I'm sitting in a machine gunner slot. Um, so I did that through ITC and through JRTC down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and then it was get back from that, and I think we had about a month or so, and it was go to Afghanistan.
Very happy days. So
Oh
how
yeah,
long did you do
September
in Afghan?
2009. How did we do in Afghanistan?
Well, how long
That
did you do in Afghanistan?
so we did a year. It was a year long deployment,
Oh,
September '09
that's
to September 10.
that is a long stretch, isn't it? Because you guys, I mean, we go out for 6 months at a time, and we rotate through. So yeah, for us, it's a 6 month tour, and that's tough enough. But to go out there for a whole year, and were you constantly on the go out there, or did you get some R&R time? Do you get any?
Well,
How
they
does it
always
work for
had
you guys?
yeah, they so what they'll end up doing is everybody gets an R&R slot, and it's 2 weeks. So because of the logistics of moving somebody out of a combat zone and then moving them back into, you're really looking at about a month off.
Hmm.
Um, I had mine came up. It was just shy of the New Year's, so I actually think I spent New Year's in Kuwait. Um, But so what, we had got there in September. Mine was about midway. So I mean, they just
Mm.
stagger everything through. The platoon sergeants and
Yeah.
everybody have the tasking list, and they know who's going to be rotating out at whatever time. And it was kind of weird because mine showed up. We had been in Helmand um, in the beginning, so we started off Kandahar. We were there for a few weeks, and then it was all right. You guys are going to Helmand. They didn't really know where to put us.
Mm.
We're just an extra brigade combat team, and they were like, we got farmed out all over the place. But we had a battalion commander trying to get us into the fight. So going from running up and down the highway in Helmand doing this advise and assist mission,
Yeah.
um, which was really, I mean, there was nothing for us out there. I felt bad for the Brits out of Lash because they kept getting lit up in the soft skin vehicles. And we had a bunch of the Gurkhas and stuff out there. Gurkhas were getting in firefights left and right.
Mm.
And our Advon party actually got into a good tick with them before we even got there. So we were like, hey, this is gonna be it. And we were all excited because I mean that's kind of what we trained for up to that point. And then when
Yeah.
we got there, it was a lot of sitting around.
Like hurry up and wait, and then when you do finally get out, it's not a shooting war. It tends to be IEDs, and that brings in a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know
and
whether
and
you've
in
caught up with
Helmand,
that lot.
oh yeah, well Helmand, we would come across the IEDs all the time. They just they never wanted to. I think they realized we had up armored vehicles. Um, so we would hear across the radio the circle squares are coming, which,
Mm.
if you look at an 82nd patch, there's the square and the 82nd with the
Yeah.
circle in there. Um, so they would kind of hang back and just attack those soft targets as opposed to coming after us full force. But you had to check every culvert. You had to deliberately move down the highway
Yeah.
because if you did, we would find quite a few just on the way to where we were going. So it would be a 3 to 5 day mission up the highway, and you're
Yeah.
just tedious moving.
Mm. So bring us on a little bit then. What happened when you came out of Afghanistan in 10?
Oh, well, I mean, so we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit there, just because of it's just a little more complicated than that because of moving to the Arghandab River Valley to where Helmand, we did a lot of mounted stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at, we went dismounted. When we hit the Arghandab, kind of job sets changed. I moved from a machine gunner to a radio operator. And Arghandab we took over for 5th ID Strikers, this 117 battalion, or was it battalion or brigade? And they
Is
were,
that kind of in the north of Helmand?
no, it is north. It's, the western, southwest side of Kandahar city area.
Oh, right, the other way altogether in Kandahar province as
Yes.
opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. We
Helmand.
were
Yeah.
out of Helmand altogether at this point. The Aussies gave us a ride out in a Chinook, and we gladly took it. Or wait, no, did we drive out of Helmand or did they? Actually, I can't remember where it was. I wrote some of the stuff in the book. Like it's the op tempo when we hit Arghandab, the op tempo went from a lot of that hurry up and wait to there was no,
No let up.
you slept when you could.
Hmm.
It was, I mean, my platoon sergeant even, he's a sergeant major now, and he's said to me over conversations and stuff, he's like, has your sleep cycle ever been the same since then? No, never. I mean, it
Yeah.
was, well, 2 to 3 hours, and I actually got it was still hard, but I almost say that I didn't get it as bad as some of the other guys because I was carrying the radio. And I had to be on a bit more of the patrols. But between the guard tower rotations and then you had the patrols, and then you also have to work in sleep, but then you're running a
Hmm.
compound, so you've got generators running, and just the amount of work. And we were
Yeah.
spread so thin because the area was so saturated that they broke us apart from a company element to a platoon element. So we ended up being 28 men on a combat outpost in the middle of the Arghandab River Valley.
Mm.
So it was, we were separated from everybody, and where patrols would intermingle or we would cross each other's paths here and there. There was just a lot of moving parts, and you could never go the same path twice because they realized,
Yeah.
oh, these
They'll
guys aren't
hit
going to
you.
drive like the last ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, they pulled out all the ordnance and they put in, anti-personnel mines. So there's toe poppers and
Mm.
trip wires, and if you tried to drive a vehicle, they would, double stack tank mines and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But so a lot of landmines, and so combined between that and suicide bombers, and there was a few instances to where we came across people, or in one instance we had a grenade tossed over a wall at us that's kicked off a firefight. Oh yeah, it was just,
Sounds
kinetic
like
is
a
all
lot of
heck.
fun.
Oh,
And,
there's
and,
there's
and
a
I guess
lot,
all of this is in your book.
and all of this, that the book primarily focuses on the Arghandab just due to how kinetic it was. And when people go through it, and they're, wow, your company really went through some hell. And I stopped them right there and I said, no, that's the view from the platoon. And they kind of look
Mm.
at me and they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff I never even covered because it would just be too big. Like I wanted to boil it down and do it mainly from what I personally experienced. Because if I was to put out the whole deployment and I mean, we're talking a 5-year project without a doubt.
Yeah. So, Will, where can people get that book?
So, I mean, right now you can pre-order it, Casemate Publishing. You've got it at Barnes and Noble, Amazon. Um, Amazon actually picked it up as a feature, so I mean, it's going to be on the shelves at Barnes and Noble um, for what, on October 31st, which actually commemorates the first firefight that we were in with First Platoon. So
Wow.
there's a lot of history built into the book.
Brilliant. Well, Will, just bring us right up to date now. What are you up to nowadays? And are you still serving or have you retired?
So I have left as of 2018, just under 11 years in, but that was enough. I At that point it was just spinning the wheels, and I kind of was like, you know what, I can do a lot more for people outside than I can while still in.
Mm.
Um, I'd done active duty up until 2015, and it was time to hang up the hat on that end. And I did some stuff on the reserve side with the civil affairs um, from 15 to 18, the 450th Civil Affairs Unit, and then from there, it's been man, it hasn't stopped. It's been uh, college, finishing up that bachelor's that I never finished. So I got
Yeah.
that in business administration with a base towards marketing. And then I pivoted to a marketing certificate with Cornell, and then recently finished up some stuff with Columbia Business School. That was some courses geared towards CMO, which has actually helped out hugely in promoting the book end of things. Because if you've ever tried to get people to read these days,
Yeah. Now, talking of reading, is it going to be an audible?
there is going to be an Audible. Yes,
Oh, who's going to read
yes.
it? Is it going to
This
be?
is
Are
the
you going
thing
to
that
do
is,
it yourself?
I offered to even do it for free. I don't know. Um, so with how it works going through a publisher and everything, they have the audio rights. I didn't lock it down from the start. They were like, well, you're not
Mm.
someone who wants to. And I'm like, look, at this point, I wanted to just get it done, get the book done. And I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Let the pros handle it. And the more I realized, I'm like, the readers want this read from the guy who wrote it. So I mean, I'm willing to read it if there's anybody
Yeah.
from the who it wasn't Audible that picked it was oh man, and I'm trying to think because this was just a week and a half ago that audio got picked up. So I just sent in the pronunciation list yesterday, and I actually read the author's note, and I recorded it and sent it in with it, and I said, hey, send that along, to maybe get the hook in them.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'd love to read it, but at the same time, I understand it's coming out in a month, and they may
Well,
wait for a special edition, but there is going to be an Audible at least.
terrific. Well, Will, thank you so much for sharing that. That's been
No, thanks for having
amazing.
me.
Absolutely amazing. So, thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed that. Shame we couldn't go on a lot longer.
Oh,
Maybe,
I mean, it can if you
maybe
have the
next
time.
time.
But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Have me back on for sure. It was really good
If
to
you
be
want to,
here. Thanks for
yeah, if
having
you
me.
want to hang around for a minute, I'll be back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wow, another fantastic story another veteran. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to get a copy of that book. Even though I struggle at reading, I'll give it a bash. But the Audible, I'm really looking forward to the Audible when it comes out. So that'll be something else to look forward to. So until next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.